almost half of the world's population is reliant upon fish as a food source or as a way of making a living. But rising temperatures are changing the oceans and disrupting fish habitats, and carbon taken in from the atmosphere is making the oceans more acidic, affecting the growth and survival of many species. Many fish are being forced to adapt, migrate, or die. The impact upon people who rely on fish for their sustenance and livelihoods will be profound. The ocean covers almost 3/4 of the Earth's surface and acts as a huge temperature store. In spite of this, average sea level temperatures have risen 3 times slower than the air temperature on land. But even slight changes in temperature in certain regions can produce huge shifts in the distribution of life under the water. Many marine animals are capable of short-term adaptation by changing their behavior or physiology. Fin and humpback whales, which can be found from the poles to the equator, have altered their migration patterns over time as a result of warmer waters. But fish that have evolved in less variable polar or tropical temperatures are less able to adapt and are sensitive to even slight changes. And those in equatorial regions are already living close to their upper heat limit. If the ocean surface temperature rises between 2 to 3 degrees Celsius, by early next century, equatorial waters could become completely uninhabitable for most shallow water fish currently living there. Those that cannot leave will face local extinction. Whether evolution can keep up with climate change in the long run is unknown. But a mass undersea migration has already been happening for decades. Around the world, both cold water and warm water fish have been heading towards the poles, searching for cooler waters. North Sea cod have moved farther north and gone into deeper territory over the past century as a result of climate change. This has been good news for Greenland's fishermen, but not for those further south. Red mullet used to be a staple Mediterranean catch, but from the mid-1990s started to be seen off the coast of Scotland for the first time in 70 years. Plankton, primary food sources to all sorts of animals, have moved the most out of all marine life. In 2010, researchers sailing off Norway's Svalbard archipelago found tropical plankton from the equator in their nets, a possible preview of climate-induced changes. Where prey moves, predators usually follow, so entire food webs will likely be affected. But not all the changes will be harmful. On current temperature trends, the world will actually start to experience a net increase in biodiversity, as species expand and thrive in new spaces. But by mid-21st century, there will be large losses and local extinctions across tropical regions, resulting in an overall net loss. And while migration can spell survival for the fish able to make the transition, it can also adversely affect the ecosystems of the places they migrate to. Recent expansions have already been causing havoc. Invading tropical fish have been decimating kelp forests off southern Japan, which provide nutrients to local species. Melting ice between the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans is opening up large-scale pathways for species invasions of the size not seen for 3 million years. What effects mass migrations will have upon complex ecosystems in the long term is unknown. But as the tropics experience large-scale losses of species that are not replaced, many will lose the fish they depend on to survive.